he's had a little bit of playoff success, but not getting over the top. Now his best receiving weapons leave. Like, again, you asked the question, like, why would great receiving weapons leave a great quarterback in his prime? That doesn't add up. That says something. That you're not bending over backwards to continue to play with a top 5 quarterback in the league. You're going elsewhere. So I think that's pretty telling. And I think that, we're going to learn a lot about him this year because without the receivers, without, Diggs, without Gabe Davis, I think he's going to have to carry more on his own. Does he keep this team at a good competitive playoff team, or does it drop? Because I think more than ever, it's on him.
Josh Allen voted NFL's most overrated quarterback by fellow players. All right. And also, he was voted number 1 for trash talking.
Number 1 for
yeah. Josh Allen.
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah. What do you feel about that? You think he should be most overrated?
Most overrated's tough, but here's the thing, and here's why I think it kind of works. Most people would rank him somewhere in the 2 to 5 range.
Yeah.
So he's ranked highly. And when you're ranked highly, you have a chance to be overrated. Where I would say if you look at a player who catches a lot of heat like Dak Prescott, not many people have him in their top 5. He's more of like a maybe 8 to 15 guy. And so, like, okay, are you really overrated if people have some criticisms of you at 8 to 15?
Right.
And I think Josh Allen, you kind of go to that thing where, he's had a little bit of playoff success, but not getting over the top. Now his best receiving weapons leave. Like, again, you asked the question, like, why would great receiving weapons leave a great quarterback in his prime? That doesn't add up. That says something. That you're not bending over backwards to continue to play with a top 5 quarterback in the league. You're going elsewhere. So I think that's pretty telling. And I think that, we're going to learn a lot about him this year because without the receivers, without, Diggs, without Gabe Davis, I think he's going to have to carry more on his own. Does he keep this team at a good competitive playoff team, or does it drop? Because I think more than ever, it's on him.
Yeah.
So this is really a put up or shut up season for him. And, hey, if he uses this as motivation, I like this. Josh Allen's Paul George. I don't disagree.
Josh Allen is Paul George.
Talented guy. Everybody kind of likes what he does. He does a bunch of different things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't add up to something elite and dangerous.
Yeah. Overall, that's decent. But Paul George has had some awful moments in the postseason. He's like a baby James Harden. Like, he really is a different player in the postseason. Josh Allen has had some incredible moments in the playoffs. Just come up short with absolutely not his fault. We could find a better one than Paul George.
But realistically, that Chiefs loss, that put him in the top 5.
Yeah.
That performance. And again, if you take that singular game out, I don't think he's consensus top 5. I think he's 4 to 8.
Yeah.
And I think that game, because you felt it. You're like, he's going toe-to-toe with the best dude in the world, and if he gets the ball last, he's winning it, and we all know it.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the thing. That put him on the map.
Now, tied for second was Jalen Hurts and Tua. Now, Tua would have been my first pick, whether I'm just naming most overrated or who I think they would have said overrated.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, your guy from the Chargers was not on there.
Yeah.
People they just love him, man. The players love him. The media loves him. He's just a beloved guy.
Everybody except me.
Herbert.
Yeah. No, but to me, too, I do think he has legitimate detractors, and that's why I don't think he's that highly rated. Like, when he started last year, he was playing at like a top 5 level, but it dropped off pretty badly. And to me, he was kind of exposed for some limitations that he has. And I think that, that's by the end of the year, I wasn't thinking he was anywhere near the top 5, and therefore he's probably properly rated. And then Jalen Hurts, I have no idea where that guy is. No, I don't. You saw a great run and great play in the Super Bowl and the loss to the Chiefs, but last year was very uneven. He has the reputation as the solid guy of character, quiet leader, whatever. But sometimes, like late in the year, he looked kind of lost.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have any answers. There just wasn't a lot going on there. And then this, off season, we've heard a lot about friction between him and Sirianni.
They say that's what caused the bad season last year.
Right. And so, and Sirianni's still there. Now he may have given up some control of the offense, but I don't think that that's, going to be complete because he's still the head guy and it still goes to him if it all goes to shit. So I think, he's in a very interesting place to see how he plays this year. And arguably, he has great weapons.
Yeah. They bought in
AJ,
Saquon.
And he's got Devontae, and then they bring in Saquon. Like, you don't have a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
And low-key, though, is a couple people that seem pretty knowledgeable. They're saying, like, watch out for the loss of Kelsey.
Yeah.
Because of all the line calls and blocking schemes he called. And now that'll fall more on Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And if he kind of falters in that area, he could look pretty damn bad.
Well, there was already a coordinator, a defensive coordinator that came out yesterday and was basically he said the book is out on Jalen Hurts and says that he really struggles versus a all out blitz when there's one more blitzer than there's a blocker.
Yeah.
And then when they were said on ESPN, they showed the advanced stats and he really struggles against that. And they said last year was just awful when it came down to that.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing about the NFL is that it may take, a year or two, but when they get a book on you, there is an adjustment period. And some quarterbacks they never find that counter. Yeah. And then some like Mahomes went a stretch where I don't know if you remember, but that Tampa cover 2 defense. And it was about maybe 2 to 3 years ago. And it was during Tyreek and right after Tyreek because he would like to throw a lot of these longer passes.
Right.
And when going against the Tampa 2, that's just not a good look. And he would never take the underneath, the Tom Brady approach. We're just going to 5 yards this out.
Yeah. They made
and that
a
was
decision.
the book on
We're
Mahomes.
not going to give up the long ball. We're going to play some Tampa 2 and make you make these throws. And there was a period where he wasn't comfortable, didn't want to make those throws,
right.
Didn't make them well.
And he turned in the season. Like in the season, he was able to catch that and turn that around, which is very rare. And so we'll see if Jalen Hurts can, after a whole offseason, if he can perform better against that defense.
2 things I want to say that. Now, Jalen Hurts at Alabama was a horrible quarterback in the passing game. He was bad.
Yeah.
And he got to be to what he is. And so that I know that guy can work, and I know that he's humble enough to learn. So I if there's a way to do it, I think he'll make the effort. But here's the second tier of this. And I think that here's where coaching and coaching dynamics are very important. Like, you got to have a coach that works with you, to because it's not just you. Like, you may have bad instincts or bad reactions to that type of blitz, but with an offensive scheme and certain reads and routes and options that they can give you, you can start to work through that.
Right.
And have like quicker options. And we know what we're going to do against this or that. And we have a clear plan. And so, hopefully he's getting the offensive coaching that's going to be kind of creative enough and adaptable enough to address his weaknesses and help him work through it, rather than kind of like hanging him out to dry. Oh, you're just not making the read we want to do. Sometimes you got to tailor things to the guy you have.
Yeah.
And for his sake, I hope that they have that. But it will be interesting, and it's got to be like a symbiotic thing where he's growing and learning, and the coaching staff is developing the offense around that to address it.
Yeah. No, it really does. It really does. And in that division, the NFC East, you got the Cowboys and all of theirs, going on. the Giants, just who've been a shit show for a long time, and Washington with a rookie quarterback. So, I mean, Hurts, this is the year for them to turn it around. Now, do you see what with the Giants, I said from the beginning, when they gave him the contract, Daniel Jones, the money, that was just a terrible decision.
Yeah.
The NFL, man, there are fans and there are some media members. They're so afraid to go without. Well, what are we gonna do if we don't pay him? Daniel Jones, the Dak Prescott, even down to the two or whatever. They're so afraid that the first thing they say is, well, if we don't pay him, then what are we going to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's so, beneficial. So if you know this guy is not the guy, quarterbacks, there is no way around it. You have to pay that guy, the next guy, the top money. That's just it. Unless you have a veteran, guy who's been on 1,000 teams already.
Yeah.
Get rid of that guy and start over.
Well, what you're saying. Like you cannot lock quarterbacks down out of fear. You can't do it. Yeah. And that's what too many teams do. They have a halfway decent guy, or a guy that, even if it's a guy they know he's not good, but they've invested a certain amount of draft capital or financial capital up to this point, or development up to this point, they're afraid to let that go. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need to let it go. And to be honest, like the Bears did it.
Yeah.
They realized they did. They felt that Caleb is better than Fields is going to be, and they made that move. And it's to their credit, because the other side of this, they get another 4 or 5 years of rookie scale pay at the quarterback position, whereas they would have had to make a decision on Fields to pay him. And so credit to the Bears. Even if Fields ends up being a pretty good quarterback, and even if Caleb does not achieve all that maybe the hype would indicate, it was still a sound football decision. But the Giants go ahead and throw money at a guy who's accomplished nothing in the league, who's just been a placeholder. And now they're kind of stuck with this guy for a period of time. And the franchise ceiling, like, literally just dropped to the floor.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing going on there. Nobody's worried about the fucking Giants. You invest your top pick in a very talented wide receiver, and he's going to struggle because of the guy throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
And I still think that Hyatt's probably a pretty good player. They drafted him out of Tennessee, a speed receiver, downfield threat, almost not involved in any way last year. And again, it's because of what you have at quarterback. You don't have a real player.
Yeah, I just don't understand it. And the NFL is set up to where it's conducive that way. The NBA, you lose, you got to go into this fucking the draft lottery. Maybe you get lucky and get the number 1 or number 2 pick, or maybe you lose 1,000 games and get the number 8 pick. You know what I mean? It's tricky like that. NFL, 0 wins, 1 win, that determines the number 1 pick, the number 2 pick, number 3 pick. You know what I mean? It's like you can turn things around quickly. Especially with the quarterbacks coming in, they're more ready to play.
I was going to say, the other side of this equation, you have to look at what's coming into the league every year. And we're at a point now where there's, probably 5, 6, first-round level talent guys coming into the league every year, who appear to have what it takes. Granted, they don't all work out, but there are available people to take every year in the draft at the quarterback spot in the first round. And again, because there's 5 or 6 of them, you could still get a good one in the teens, sometimes in the 20s.
Yeah.
Because there's just enough, and not every team needs a quarterback. So, to sit there and feel like you got to overpay a mediocre or sub-level performer is absurd. Like, nobody cares about Daniel Jones. He can be recycled like a plastic bottle.
And will be.
Yeah.
Right after this Giants, whatever that you want to call it, career, he will be passed around, just like the rest of those guys. Just like Blaine Gabbert and whoever else you want to name that's in that boat.
Yeah.
All right. And he'll be a reserve backup for as long as his days remain on this earth. All right.